Hello, friend. It has been a very emotional few weeks. My intention was to focus on pausing before making decisions because I have been making quick decisions based on being lit up, like things that have lit me up, and then being carried away by the excitement. So my intention was to practice the pause before making big decisions and be consciously aware of that. But the universe had other plans for me. Shortly after I released the latest podcast episode, I took our almost 10-year-old dachshund into the vet because we've been having problems with her with what we thought was a bladder infection since April. And she was going to go in to get yet another round of antibiotics. And this time they took a culture of the urine to have it grown to see exactly what bacteria was in her bladder so that they could prescribe the proper antibiotics and fully clear it up this time. Because aside from having to go to the bathroom a little more frequently and having accidents, she had been her wonderful, happy, normal self. So I took her into the vet. They started her on an antibiotic until the cultures came in. And when the cultures did finally come in about 5 days later, there was no bacteria in her bladder. So there was no bladder infection. And the vet thought it would be a good idea to bring her in and have an ultrasound to find out exactly what's going on, to see if maybe she had some bladder crystals or see if maybe it was an issue with her kidneys or to try and find out exactly what was going on. So I took her in and they did the ultrasound, and it turns out that she had a tumor in her urethra, really close to the entrance of the bladder. And it was this tumor that was creating the white blood cells and all of the inflammation that was showing up in her bladder. And it's what was causing her urgency to pee. And there was really nothing that could be done about this tumor other than there's a medication they could prescribe that it wouldn't shrink the tumor, but it could slow its growth. And they said we had anywhere from 2 months to 6 months left with her. So that was some extremely heartbreaking news to receive because Bailey is my little princess. So it was a very emotional couple days after we received this news because we also live full time in our RV and we travel a lot. And we've been in one spot for the past few months helping my mother-in-law put her house on the market and sell it and prepare to move south with my sister-in-law. So we've been, very busy and we've been stationary, but we're not very stationary very often. And the house had sold and we were in the process of packing, and my husband was driving the U-Haul down to Arizona he was gonna spend some time down in Arizona with his mom and his sister and go house hunting with them and all of that. So we went ahead and ordered the prescription. It was an NSAID. She'd had a really bad reaction to NSAIDs in the past, but it was a different classification. And they said that it shouldn't be any issue. And after a couple days of just feeling into the emotions of this terrible news, we were doing okay. Life returned to fairly normal. There was just this underlying dread of not knowing when the time would be right. And we eventually what would happen is this tumor would block her urethra and then she wouldn't be able to empty her bladder. And that's a very painful experience. And my husband knows this firsthand because he was in a construction accident in his early 20s that severed his urethra, and he had to wear a catheter for 3 months. And this ended up causing some scar tissue in his urethra. And just a few years ago, the scar tissue had built up so much that he was unable to eliminate his bladder and ended up in the emergency room and having to have surgery shortly thereafter. So he was fully aware of how uncomfortable it can be when you're unable to void your bladder. And we didn't want Bailey to go through that experience. And so we continued going about our daily business, just kind of keeping an eye on Bailey. Her medication arrived and we started giving her this NSAID, and she tolerated it very well. There were no issues with it. She was happy. She was playful. Um, everything was good for the moment. My biggest concern was that I didn't want to begin traveling again and be in an area where we couldn't get to a vet quickly if she took a turn for the worst. And so we were really wrestling with this decision as to when to let her go. My husband left for Phoenix with his mom on the 16th of July. Yeah, he left on the 16th of July. And I had scheduled her appointment to exit this world on the 1st of August because I didn't want her to suffer. And, we were comfortable with the vet that was here. And it was a really hard decision. And as the days went on, I was feeling really uncomfortable with it because Bailey was doing so good. And, with my emotional authority, I gain clarity about how I really feel around a situation by talking with people. And so I'd been talking with my family in Hamilton, which is where we're going to be heading to next for the next month. We'll be in Montana, doing our annual doctors of visits and taking anything out of the RV that we haven't used in the last year and doing a thorough cleaning of it and just preparing for heading south for the winter. So we planned on being in Montana for at least a month. And when we went to our family camp, we had a family camp. So we found out on July 7th. And then my dad and my brother and sister and their families, we all get together for a family camp every year. And so everybody was saying their goodbyes to Bailey at our family camp. And it was really bittersweet. So I'd been talking about them with about this decision. And yesterday I'd finally made the decision that because Bailey was doing so good, we would bring her back to Montana with us. And I had reached out to the vet that she had been seeing there before we started moving full time, traveling full time. And they said that they would be able to take care of her when that time came. I was feeling pretty good because Bailey seemed to be doing really good. And, the past few weeks, I'd been receiving a lot of new clients for the virtual assisting that I'm doing currently. Now, during this few week period, I had started to receive a lot of clients for the body graft virtual assisting that I do, which was feeling very exciting and, just really exciting. And everything had just been really flowing well with this new business venture. And there was a bunch of work that I really wanted to get done yesterday because I didn't have I didn't have my day job because while Ryan's been gone, I've been taking care of the business that we work together. It's just easier since we're so far apart. It's harder to communicate about what is going on in the business, so it's harder for him to help out. And so business had been a little bit busier that week too, so I wasn't able to accomplish as much during the week as I wanted to get done. And also, I decided to switch my CRM. So I signed up with one customer relationship management software. And after playing around with it for a while, I realized that it was not going to meet my needs. So I was switching to a new one, which required a lot more initial setup, but it's going to be absolutely amazing once I get everything all set up. So it's just been a really busy work week, a lot of work, really exciting. Like I just lose myself in it and I enjoy doing it, which, was also a really great distraction for me. But there was stuff that I really wanted to get done on Saturday. And every time that I sat down to do it, I just felt scattered and like I couldn't focus. So I'd sit down to try and work and I'd realize, okay, now is not the time. I recognize that. So I would put it away. And then eventually I'd feel the need, like, I really want to get this done. So I'd come back and sit down in front of my computer and then just could not get myself to stay focused to work on it. So it's like, okay, yep, today is not the day to be working on this. And we were having a surprise 50th birthday Zoom call for my husband that my sister-in-law had set up. We were going to play Jeopardy. And so I was getting all logged in for that Zoom call. Ryan, it was a surprise. He had no idea about it. And so he comes into the house and we're online with our kids are online, watching it. We're getting ready to play the Jeopardy game. And I look over at Bailey because she's sitting in the chair next to me and she doesn't look right. She's kind of sitting a little bit weird. And I noticed that she had this big kind of lump under her chin and her neck area skin was just kind of swollen and looked wrong. And so I touched that little lumpy spot that I had seen and she yipped and jumped down off of the chair and went and laid in front of the bathroom door next to our bed, which is where she would frequently go and lie down when she wasn't feeling good, when she was feeling uncomfortable. So I told my family, something's not right with Bailey. I'm gonna have to take a break for a minute. I gotta go check her out. And I went and I laid down on the floor with her and I was looking her over and I knew in that moment that it was time. And so I called the vet and they were able to schedule us in within the hour. And so I texted my husband and let him know what was going on. And we decided to postpone his birthday activities. And I had to take Bailey in by myself to say goodbye to her. And the vet was so good. I showed up with carrying Bailey in my arms. And there were some other people in the waiting room and they recognized me and just brought me right back into the room. And they had a pink fuzzy blanket all laid out, which was her favorite. She loved fuzzy blankets. And the process was hard but good. And I said goodbye to my sweet Bailey yesterday. And what's really interesting about this whole process is that
I could see how my human design played out in all of it, and how having an awareness of my energy and my gifts helped me recognize exactly when it was time. It was such a hard decision. Like, I had been wrestling with, when is going to be the right time, because she had seemed so good, so healthy. Not healthy, but so we knew she wasn't healthy, but she was happy. So we felt like we had a little bit more time with her. But it turns out that the cancer had probably spread to her lymph nodes, and so that's what was causing the water retention, the fluid retention in her, and making her really uncomfortable. And it switched so fast. Like, she was fine this morning. She was still her happy self. She was well enough that I had canceled her appointment that I had for Friday because I felt like we had more time with her. It's really interesting just to see how everything played out, because if I would have noticed this 2 hours later, then our vet would have been closed, and they're not open on Sundays. And I don't know how long Bailey would have been uncomfortable before I took her in, or I would have had to take her to an emergency pet place that wasn't familiar with her and her situation. My husband really did not want to be present to put her down. He would have been, to support her and to support me. But he had said a silent goodbye to her before he left, just just in case. And I was able to do a FaceTime call with him at the vet so that he was able to say his goodbyes to her. But it's just funny how the day played out. I could have been distracted by the work that I wanted to do, but I was listening to my body that was saying, "No, you can't focus on this right now." And my I have the 5720. My spleen is very defined, and I have a lot of present moment, in the moment energy within my human design. So I was able to quickly sense the shift in Bailey. And there was a peace in knowing that now is the time. She let me know when she was ready. And while it hurts to have to say goodbye, I know that she didn't have to suffer for too long. She still had quality of life. And so I just wanted to share with you that, you know, trust yourself, trust your intuition. And it's just so fun to see um, just how much awareness, just having awareness changes things so much. Like, I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say here. I'm just grateful to have the awareness, to be present, and to recognize. No, it's not even that. Like, I'm grateful for just seeing how everything all played out in divine timing. And it's helping me to continue to trust in that divine timing and listen to my body when it says, "You can't focus. The time's not right. Let's do something else." Like, I could not focus on the working. There was stuff that I really wanted to get done, but my body was saying, "No, this is not the time." And so I feel like I really have that permission to listen and to trust my intuition, because, intuition is really subtle and we discount it. Our mind talks us out of trusting it. And one of the positive things that came from this experience is that I was shown that I can trust that intuition. I can trust that divine timing. And so I encourage you to check in and connect, tune into your body, tune into your intuition, and play around with trusting it. Like when the mind tells you, oh, no, that's not it. Just trust it anyways and see what happens. See how it plays out. It could be amazing. So I know that this was a very emotionally heavy podcast. And I thank you for taking the time to tune in and listen. And as my heart heals, I do plan on continuing to play around with pausing before making decisions and continuing to feel into my decisions, trust that divine timing, and just take a pause. Thank you so much for listening. And I think that's all that I have for today. Thank you so much for listening all the way to the end. If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, I'd be so grateful if you'd leave a review. It really helps more people discover the show. And don't forget to hit follow or bookmark so that you're the first to know when a new episode drops. If you'd like to dive deeper or work with me directly, check out the links in the show notes. And as always, keep living your human design, messy, magical, and entirely your own. See you next time.